Today, we're going to be talking about three separate moves that wide receivers can use to get them faster off the line of scrimmage. So, the first move we're going to be discussing is something called a prep step. So, a prep step is something that you could use on every single press release. This example release is going to be a slide release with a crossover, like an inside crossover fake, and he is going to be running a fade. So, let's pay attention to the very first step he takes with his left foot here. So, that prep step is essentially a jab step, right? But it's almost like a jab step in place because we're trying to use it to create some explosion to get some twitch off the ball. A lot of times when wide receivers will do releases, even just simple releases where they, try to throw a jab with their outside foot, it could be released like a slide release. It feels very, very uncomfortable, very, very awkward, and their feet are almost out of sync. So this prep step is a great way to kind of give you some balance, but also you shooting that foot into the grass as quickly as you can will give you some explosion. So guys, it is literally just a step in place almost, slightly to the left. You are striking the ground on the ball of your foot, middle arch of the foot, and it's just to create some explosion. Because guys, like let's say for example, it's a simpler release, like just a crossover release, right? When you're facing talented DBs who are very disciplined, I have great eye discipline. They're watching my hips. They're reading my body language. They're well-coached DBs. Guys, if we don't have some quickness to my releases, that's not going to get them to move off the platform. That's not going to get them to jump to the inside, and we won't be able to create space. So guys, this prep step is something that could create speed and explosion off the ball. So remember, it is a step in place. We're on the ball of my foot, and we are trying to push off of this step into whatever I try to do, whether it's a jab step with my back foot, whether it's a jab step and then an inside crossover, or whether it is this slide release. That gives him that explosion off the line. Because again, with this slide release, there's still got to be a little bit of twitch. So guys, a prep step is a great step that you guys can use to create more speed off the ball for you. Now, the second thing that we're going to be talking about with this press release example here is something called a kick step. Now, a kick step is something that you would use with your back foot, and you are essentially, it's pretty much exactly like how it sounds. Now, before we get into this kick step and we break down what it is, when to use it, how you can use it, if you're a wide receiver and you would like to train with us this off season, we're going to be traveling out to 10 more states across the country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. Next up on our camp tour, guys, we're going to be coming out to Dallas, then we'll be heading out to Nashville, Chicago, Buffalo, Atlanta, Houston, Philly, Detroit, Boise, and Los Angeles. Guys, our first 5 camps were completely sold out. We appreciate everybody who attended, and our next 3 are completely sold out as well, and these on this side of the column will sell out within the next month, you guys. So guys, if you would like to train with us and you're local to one of these cities, one of these states, or would like to travel out, guys, check out that very first link in the description below. It's where you can get all the information, and that's where you can sign up. We'd absolutely love to have you there. So again, guys, very first link in that description below to sign up for one of our off-season 2-day-long training camps. Let's get back to this video. So now, first things first here, like with this kick step release, right? Kick step is exactly how it sounds. You're going to kick behind your front foot with your back foot to give you some explosion, to sell with them some hips into your release, to ultimately get separation with a DB. So let's talk about it, right? So guys, this DB, so this receiver is running a like deeper post route, right? And he's faced with a coverage that is in head-up press coverage, right? So head-up press coverage means a couple of things. It means that I could have a two-way release. That means that if I wanted to, I could release to the outside. If I wanted to, I could release to the inside. If he stays in that head-up position, right? Because head-up, again, he's giving me the inside, he's giving me the outside. It's not like he has a specific leverage to the outside or a leverage or shade to the inside. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to get him to jump to an outside fake so I get an inside release on an inside breaking route. Usually the path of least resistance when I have an inside breaking route is an inside release. The only time we take an outside release is if that DB is inside shade press, not giving up the inside. So what we have to do is we have to throw a move. This is like that jab fake to get this DB to jump to the outside and slip back inside. Now, obviously, I call this a wide step release. This wide step release has to have some speed because we're trying to sell like it's a speed release. We're trying to make this DB think that we're just trying to run to the outside to get him to overcommit. Now, obviously, to be able to sell fade, we need some speed, right? And that kick step is what creates speed. It's almost a way for you guys to create some energy out of your stance. If you try to do that wide step from a flat-footed position, you guys, it is very, very hard to get enough speed to get a DB to jump. It's going to be almost like a weak jab step. Now, guys, I know some of you are probably thinking that this is a little weird. Your high school head coach, your trainer has told you never to do something like this, that this is a false step. Guys, I highly recommend before you make judgments on it, try it. See how it feels. Either that prep step that I was talking about or this kick step. Don't neglect this. Is something just advice generally in life. You never want to judge something until you try it for yourself or know it for yourself. Give this move a try, either a prep step or a kick step. You guys, and I'm telling you right now, your releases are going to get at least 50% faster if you don't do it already. Now, like I said, that kick step, you're trying to be quick with it. There is an element to where this can get way too slow and way too over exaggerated. A lot of receivers overdo this, right? They take this big ass step. It's really, really long, really wide, and it's slow, and that defeats the purpose. It has to be a quick punch behind your front leg. Now, the other reason that this kick step is great, and with this jab step release that we're talking about right now, you could absolutely do a prep step if you're more comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with kick steps on certain releases. I'm comfortable with the jab step on certain release. You could do that too. I recommend probably sticking to one, but again, you could do either or. Now, another reason this kick step is great because to be able to sell to the outside and get this DB to jump, what is a DB in press coverage watching? He is watching my hips, right? So when I throw that cut, it's more than me just stepping. I am also trying to throw my hip into the break. I'm trying to almost turn my belly button to the opposite sideline, turn my shoulders, turn my eyes, because that's what that DB is ultimately reading. He's reading my body language. So that kick step serves as a way, you see how it loads up his hips? It makes it more comfortable for him and easier for him to throw his hip into this jab step to the outside or this wide step. So guys, the kick step not only will give us speed, but it loads up our hips so I could throw them wider and ultimately get more separation and sell my cuts better. So let's play this full speed one more time. Great job by this receiver hitting that wide step, getting the DB to jump, and then ultimately exploding off into his route. Now, the third thing I want to talk about when it comes to your releases, when it comes to your cuts, is maintaining something called a positive shin angle. Now, this, you got to tread lightly with this, right? Because a lot of people will hear me talk about this positive shin angle, and they will say, oh, well, I'm going to hurt myself. Not if you cut with inside your frame, you won't hurt yourself. If you are reaching outside of your body frame, and I'll show this example and we'll talk about that, then you may hurt yourself with this type of element. This is why, again, cutting form, cutting mechanics, foot strike mechanics are so important. So let's watch this move here from Brandon Ennis. He gives a move to the outside, gets this DB to jump, and then works this inside release like fade ball, right? So the main thing I want you to pay attention to is this. This is the positive shin angle. So off of your releases, guys, if you can maintain a positive shin angle, which essentially means like, again, it's just, you don't want to be almost thinking of it like your knee is at a 45, like your ankle's at a 45. You just want the weight distributed more so on the ball inside arch of your foot. And I'll explain why in a second. But guys, when you can cut and when you sell your cut and you're stepping outside the DB's frame, we can't just cut and then get stuck at the cut. You want to cut in order to push out. I say that to my receivers all the time. I want to cut to push. CTP, cut to push. Because when I throw this cut and I get this DB to jump, if I can't get out of this cut, there's really no point in doing it, right? So when we throw this cut, you guys, you almost want to think of it like your upper body is separate from the lower body. You want to try to keep your toes pointed forward. So, because when your toes are pointed forward or just slightly opened up to the left in this case, that will help you maintain this positive shin angle. So when you throw this cut, if your upper body is what sells it and above your waist is nice and loose, you're turning your belly button, you're turning your shoulders, you're turning your head, that is ultimately what a DB is watching. So that's what sells it. But if you maintain those toes pointed forward or slightly to the right, that positive shin angle, you can push off of this cut effectively. See how when he throws this cut, he's pushing off of it and he's already up into this route. And that is because of the shin angle, you guys. So guys, we don't want to be that guy that when I sell something to the outside, my toe, my knee, my ankle, they all turn to the sideline. Because then when your knee and your toe are pointed this way where I'm drawing these arrows, you're going to take either extra step, you're going to get stuck at the break point, and you won't be able to drive out. Now, see what I'm saying though, because you never want the inside of that knee to be facing the ground, and you never want that ankle to be facing the ground. That is what leads to knee injuries. So if you guys like to reach really far on your cuts and you strike on your heel, the toe slaps down, that's when this can be a problem. But if you focus on just landing on the ball of your foot, you focus on cutting inside of your body frame, not reaching, you almost want to think of it like your head is always even with your knee when you cut. That's a good way to gauge that this cut's inside your frame. You're going to be just fine. So guys, keep those toes forward, slightly open, maintain that positive shin angle so we could drive out of my releases.